Okay, so basically, welcome to today's class. If you remember clearly, we in the previous lecture we have completed the CCG, the Code of Corporate Governance. We have discussed many different factors about Code of Corporate Governance, and today is the first time that we are going to do a question of F8 past paper questions. So basically, if I go towards the notes, I told you how to do the question of CCG overall. What are the main points of
Oh
CCG?
yes. Can I take a screenshot of this?
Yes, I'll be sharing you these notes as well. Apologies, I did not share it last time. Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so first of all, we are going to do a question, and today's class is only about we are only going to be attempting one question, because then I want to give you time to do another question on your own and let you know the name of that question, and you will have to do it today or tomorrow whenever you have the time. Before the next lecture, you must do it. You must complete it and send me the answer so that I can review it. So basically, in today's lecture, as I told you, we are just going to attempt a question of past paper of CCG, how the question is solved, how the question comes. So if you remember, I told you how do we solve the question of CCG. Because first of all, if I recap it a bit, just a small bit, give me 5 minutes just to recap how to do a question. First of all, we make a table, a 2x2 table, that in the first side, we write down the deficiencies. And in the second, the heading is the recommendations that we are going to give. Within the deficiencies, there are 2 steps for explaining each single issue that you identify. Firstly, you will have to explain the issue within your own words so that the examiner knows what is this going to be all about. The second thing is we always write about what will be the consequence if we don't resolve this issue. We are not actually moving towards what is the right way to do it. We are just explaining if this is not resolved, what is going to be the consequence of it. The second thing is going to be recommendation. Remember, for deficiency, when you perform these 2 steps, you are given 1 marks for each deficiency you identify, for each one issue that you identify. And then when you give a recommendation against it, again, a recommendation is of 2 steps as well. First of all, what is being done wrong in accordance with the CCG, and what does the CCG says, how should it be done? This is again, both of these steps are for 1 mark. So in total, 1 issue that you identify within the exam, you do both of these things. You write down the deficiency, you provide a recommendation, you will get 2 marks for that specific issue that you have identified. So based upon this theory, we are going to
Just 2, not 4.
Yes, come again.
Just 2, not 4. I thought it was going to be 4.
Yes, just 2 scores for 1 issue that you identify when you write down the deficiency, and then you give the recommendation according to the steps that I have guided you about. Remember, if in exam you do not follow these steps, you will not be given full marks. Remember, 4 steps, each step is worth 0.5 marks. So you must fulfill each of the steps. You should not miss any of the steps. Remember that. Let's move towards the question that we are going to attempt today, and the name of the question is Daley Corporation. Daley Corporation is a very, very old question that came in your exams. It is a very old question from, I think, 2017 or 2016. It is a very old question. The question number is 218 within the kits that I've shared with you. It is in the Kaplan kit. And remember, we are only going to focus upon Kaplan kit. No BPP kit within F8 or any of the skills exam. No study hub that I have worked from within the skills or professional exams. Yeah. Yes, if you have questions from the study hub, you can ask me. I will answer those questions upon the WhatsApp. But within the lectures, we are not going to discuss any BPP questions. Okay. We are not going to discuss any study hub questions as well. Reason? Because Kaplan is the only source that is important for us within F8. That's it. Every single thing that can be asked within the exam is within the Kaplan kit. So we don't need to move towards anything else. Understood?
Yeah.
Great. Let's move towards the question now. Remember, within the exam, every single question is going to have many different parts. For example, if we look at Daley Corporation, first of all, information is given to us, a story is given to us. This is all the story part that is given to us. 1 whole page is about story. Obviously, we have to read the story and then solve this question. If I come forwards, again, there is a story, headings are given, but the story is being carried out. The questions are always given to us at the end of the stories. So basically, the first question is regarding internal controls. Because we have not studied it, we cannot solve this portion right now. If I come towards part B, again, it is from the syllabus of internal controls. We have not studied internal controls at the moment, so we are not going to go towards it. The important part for us is part number C. Oh, sorry, not part C, the part number D. This is the part that we have to resolve. And the story related with this part is only this story that you can see on the screen. The question is same Daley Corporation, but only this story is related with part D that we need to solve. Now, if I read part D, describe 3 corporate governance deficiencies. So reading the question, I have identified that the way I used to resolve one issue, I have to do it thrice. I have to identify from this story 3 issues specifically. And against each issue, I have to write down the deficiency portion and then give a recommendation according to the steps. Faced by Daley Corporation, this is the name of the company. Basically, Daley Corporation has CCG involved, has non-executive directors, has executive director, but there are some issues that we need to identify that are with Daley Corporation CCG. And provide a recommendation. Again, the examiner is saying that we also have to provide a recommendation to address each deficiency to ensure compliance with corporate governance principles. This means that the company can follow the CCG, the Code of Corporate Governance. The examiner has told us that you should solve your answer using this format, and I taught you this format within the previous lecture, and this is the same format that we are going to use. Now remember, I have told you every single deficiency that you identify will be worth 2 marks because you will be providing a deficiency and then a recommendation against it, just like we understood it. So for example, this question is for how many marks? If you can see right here, the question is for 6 marks. So even if this three word was not given to me, that I have to identify only 3 deficiencies, if nothing was given to me, I know that each issue will be worth for 2 marks and the total marks are 6. If I divide it by 2, I get 3. So I have to write down just by simple calculation. This means that my answer should only include 3 deficiencies. Against every single deficiency, I have to give a recommendation to complete the marks. This is how you identify how much you need to write down within the exam. Because mostly within the exam, because this is an old question, the examiner now usually does not say that identify this many deficiencies. The examiner only states that identify deficiencies and give a recommendation against it. That's what the examiner says in nowadays questions. But how will you identify how many deficiencies you need to write down? How many recommendations you have to provide?
The marks. Each of them is 2 marks. Okay. Okay.
Great. Now let's come towards the
Can
question.
I attempt it?
Yes, we are going to attempt it, right? Let's come towards the question.
Basically, I can say the answers.
Yes, come again. Do you have any question?
No, I said when we were doing it, can I say the answers? Because I already know what the answers. One of the answers.
Okay. So basically, what I'm going to do within today's class, I'm going to resolve every single deficiency that there is. Now remember one more thing. The examiner has given us 6 marks. This means that we only need to identify 3 deficiencies, but always remember this. The examiner will have hidden one more extra deficiency within this portion as well. How many marks the examiner states, whatever the marks the examiner is stating, the question will be able to provide you even more marks for that. For example, I have solved this question multiple times for multiple students for many different lectures that I have recorded in past, for many different lectures. I have solved this question more than you can say 50 times. So I know that within this question, there are 4 different deficiencies. So this means that by just calculating, I can get 8 marks within this question. But in paper, I don't have to write down 4 different deficiencies. I only need to write down 3. When my answer is completed by 3, I'll just leave the answer even if I identify any more deficiency and move towards the next question. Because within F8, you don't have enough time. Understood? Great. Let's move towards the question. So let's read the question from where it begins right here. Now remember, we have to read it and identify what is going wrong here. Then we will go towards the answer. First, we need to identify. So what is written right here? During the year, the chair of Daley Corporation resigned. Come again, please.
Wait, 1 second. Wait. Sure. Wait, 1 second. It just went, it went blank for me. Just wanted to see about. For some reason, it just went blank for no reason. Are you still sharing?
I'm sorry. Come again, please.
Are you still sharing your screen? Because for some reason, I don't know why it went black.
You can't see my screen?
Now I can't. I was seeing, and all of a sudden it went black.
Okay, let me share it again. Just give me 1 second. Let me share it.
It's okay, yeah.
Can you see my screen still?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, let's continue. Let's read the question from right here. The way I'm reading the question today, the same way you will have to read the question within your exam, and the question that I'm going to give you for homework as well, you will have to read it the same way. Okay. So let's read it. During the year, the chair of Daley Corporation resigned due to his other commitments, and Fred Johnson. Okay, read it. First of all, understand this. The question is saying the chair. Basically, in this question, there is a mistake. The chair here means that the chairman, the chairman. Now, who is the chairman? The chairman is the person who is
the leader of the board. The leader of the
non-executive
board.
director's leader. All right, the leader of the board. He is the top person within the company. The chairman of Delhi Corporation has resigned due to his other commitments. It's okay. He has resigned. So now we need to. There are two issues.
This one issue.
We haven't identified any kind of issue right now, but just thinking about it, because you need to have a good imagination, just like FPT exam, you need to have a good imagination in order to solve AA question. What are going to be the issues here? The one non-executive, the chairman is also a non-executive, right? So we are short of one non-executive on the board. We need that person as well. And we need to appoint from all the non-executive directors one chairman as well, because we don't have a chairman. So basically there are two issues if I just start imagining right now. Obviously, there is no issue right now that I can write down about, but because within the question, I will have to identify the issues which are within the question, but just imagining at the moment. Now, after that, during the year, the chairman of Delhi Corporation has resigned due to his other commitments, understood, and Fred Johnson, who is the chief executive of the company, took over this role. Why?
Yep, that's wrong.
Why has he
That's
done
wrong.
that? Fred is the chief executive officer of the company. The CCG says that these chairman role
You
and
cannot
the
be a chair.
executive role must be different from each other. They can't be taken over by one person. And again, Fred Johnson is an executive director. An executive director cannot take the role of a non-executive director. So there are many different issues. So we have identified the first issue right here. Can we write down within our answer right now? Let's move towards our answer. So before starting my answer within the exam, this is how I will solve it. First of all, I need to give the heading of the question that I'm solving. That is Daley Corporation. This is my heading of the question. The second thing would be the part that I'm solving, part D. That's it. That is all that I need to give to the examiner. Okay. Now I'm going to move towards my answer. First step was I have to explain the issue in my own words. Nothing else. Just rephrase the question's issue within my own words. How am I going to do that? Fred Johnson, who is the CEO of Daley Corporation, has now taken over the role of chairman, CHAIR, chairman of the company, and started acting as a non-executive director. That's it. That is just the issue that has been described within my own words. The first step is complete. Now the examiner knows what I'm talking about, what I'm going to talk about. He knows where I'm heading right now. Okay, it is now becoming easier for the examiner to identify that he needs to give me marks for this specific deficiency portion. The next thing that I need to write down is what is going to happen if this issue is not going to be resolved. I need to explain that. No, what is going to be the issue?
Can I try it?
Come again?
Can I try it? Can I try that one then?
Sure, try it out.
Okay, so the issue is the Fred Johnson will have too much power, and it can lead to him abusing his power.
Yes. So what the issue is, and you have described it very correctly, that Fred Johnson now is the CEO of the company and has power over the company. And because he is a chairman as well, he will also have too much power to, you can say, to significantly influence the decisions of other non-executives as well. So he will have too much power on his hands. We are not going to move towards whether he would abuse his power or not. Maybe he's the right person. We are not going to move towards it. But the roles must be different. The power should not be within one person. That is what is going to happen. That is the consequence. So I'm going to write it down within my own words. I don't need to remember the words that I told you. I just am going to write it down in my own words. The consequence of this would be that being the CEO and the chairman at the same time would give would give Fred Johnson a lot of power. Now remember, I don't need to have a lot of professional words. So by using the word a lot of power, I know it is not a professional word. I can also say by him having too much power. This is also a word I can say, but just make it understandable for the examiner. Don't make spelling mistakes like I do always, and don't make the grammatical mistakes so the examiner does not even understand what you are trying to write down. Okay. Fred Johnson would give, sorry, there's a spelling mistake. It would give Fred Johnson a lot of power over the company and the non-executive, not the non-executive director, and that he would be able to significantly influence the decisions of other non-executive directors as well, so that whatever decisions he makes would less likely to be challenged by anyone. So this is the consequence if this is not resolved.
Right.
But now
Able to
we
see
have
the front
explained it.
position support
Come
any
again,
as
please.
well. No, I'm just reading what you do.
Okay. So basically, we have done the first part that was explaining the deficiency. We have fully secured 1 marks for this question. Great. Now we need to move towards recommendation. We have to provide a recommendation to it. Now, the first step for providing a recommendation was that what is being done wrong? What is wrong here? Wrong is that Fred, uh, Fred Johnson cannot be the CEO and the chairman of Delhi Corporation at
So
the
what? Wait.
same time. This is that is being done wrong. I'm not moving towards CCG. I have not provided recommendation. Appropriate recommendation would be to use the words of CCG and train it into my own words. This is not a recommendation. This is just that I've stated this is wrong. Understood? Great. Now let's provide a recommendation, appropriate recommendation, a professional recommendation. According to the Code of Corporate Governance, the CEO and chairman should be separate people, and specifically an executive director cannot be in the position of non-executive director. Hence, Fred Johnson should only continue. Now I'm giving appropriate recommendation that what should Fred Johnson do, because I have to state he is also currently the CEO, he is also a non-executive director. Which role he should continue with, I also have to state that he should only be the CEO of the company. Fred Johnson, according to CCG, should only be the CEO of Daley Corporation, whereas the board should appoint a new non-executive, the board should elect a new chairman of the board, and they will also need to hire another non-executive director for the company in order to make sure that the composition of the NEDs is above the exec EDs. That's it. Do you understand?
Yes, I do, but
Great. Yes. What questions do you now have? Ask me the question.
I was gonna say, can't you like they can elect between themselves and a chair?
I'm sorry.
They can elect one of. I was gonna say, can't you say they can elect one of them to be a chair themselves?
Yes, that is what I have stated. That in here, I haven't stated that they must hire a new non-executive director and then make him a chairman. No, I have not stated this. I have stated that the board, whereas the board should elect a new chairman of the board. And then after that, I've stated because a non-executive director has left the company, they need a new non-executive director as well. They can, I have given them an option that you can still elect someone that is currently a non-executive and make him the chairman, but you still need a new non-executive director within the company as well, within the board as well. Understood?
But you know what? You know what the problem with that is? You know what the problem with that is?
Come again.
I have something to say.
Yes, yes.
there was, let's say there was 7 NEDs, right, including the chair, right?
Yes, yes, understood. Go ahead.
Okay. If one person left, that means the chair left. So if you elect the chair, is it not going to be the same 7 again?
No,
Okay, it's
no,
like
no,
now
no,
you're
no, no,
saying
no,
you're
no.
electing one extra.
Because listen. There were 7 non-executive directors, including the chairman. The chairman left. How
Yes.
many non-executive directors are left? Just 6. Out of those
6.
6,
Yep.
one would be selected to become the chairman. Still, there are 6 non-executive directors within the
Oh,
company.
cool.
No one is hired from outside the company as well. So now we need a new non-executive directors within the board as well. Understood?
Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
Great. So we are done with the first deficiency within the CCG within Delhi Corporation, and now you know how to solve the question overall. Let's move towards the next one. I have told you, even though the question is stating that we only need to identify 3, I will help you identify 4 deficiencies within this question. That is a guarantee. Now I
Let's see
have
if I
pressed
can do it.
tab, and a new table has appeared in front of me. The same table has now continued. This is how I will solve my questions. Let's move towards the second one. This is where I left my question. I need to continue it from here. Fred has recently written to all shareholders to inform them. Who is Fred? He is the CEO of the company who is trying to be also the chairman of the company. Fred has recently written to all shareholders to inform them
Oh,
that
that's wrong.
any questions or comments they may have could be raised at the company's annual general meeting, and that any other communication with the board is not possible. What the hell
That's wrong.
are you trying to say? That the shareholders who own the company, they cannot communicate with the board? They can only communicate once in a year? No. I told you that the shareholders come together to vote, but they can come together anytime and sit with the non-executive director to vote. They have that power. They are the shareholders of the company. And what is going to be the consequence of this? If you are stating to the shareholders that you cannot communicate with us, you can only communicate with us once a year,
It
this
means
would reduce our reputation in front of the shareholders. We are going to lose our reputation, our goodwill within the goodwill in front of the shareholders, and this might reduce our share price as well in the market. So we can't do that. And what does the CCG say about it? I haven't given you any kind of point within the notes that I provided you, but using your common sense, we know that the CCG was created for the goodwill of the shareholders. They can come together anytime that they want
yep.
to come together. But we need to provide, this letter has already been given to the shareholders. We need to provide a professional recommendation. We need to acknowledge that we can't provide a recommendation that such a letter should not have been given and this should not be done within the future. No, this has been done. We need to correct it. This letter that was sent to the shareholders, we need to again send a letter to the shareholders and tell them this was a miscommunication and such an error will not be done in the future as well. And also state in that letter again that you have the power to ask us anything at any time that you want to, because you own this company, you are the shareholders. That would be the appropriate recommendation. Understood? Now let's come
Oh,
back.
that'll be the recommendation. Oh, okay.
Okay, let's come back and identify what the issue is. The Fred Johnson. Fred
The issue is,
Johnson
Fred Johnson
has given letter
sent
to shareholders that communication can only be done in AGM, that is annual general meeting, and no communication would be entertained. No communication would be entertained before that for whole year. This is just, I have just stated the whole error, the whole mistake, the whole deficiency within just my words. That's it. I've not done nothing extra, done no rocket science here. Now let's move towards the rocket science and give what is going to be the consequence. I have just explained the consequence. The consequence is going to be the
the
consequence.
shareholders will lose trust.
Yes, this the
Company
consequence
and
of this mistake would
is
be
they will lose trust
not the
and they'll
mistake.
be
The consequence of this letter will be that the shareholders are going to lose their confidence in the board of Daley Corporation, and this may lead to reduction in share price of the company. That's it. That is going to be the consequence. The shareholder will no longer trust in you. This means they will lose their confidence in you. And in the future, obviously, the shareholders will not want to be your shareholders anymore. They are going to sell your shares. And when they are going to sell your shares, the supply would increase and the demand would decrease, you know, all the concepts of equity, and the share price would decrease eventually. Understood? So now let's come towards
Yep.
the recommendation. Come again, please.
Yeah, so yeah, I do understand.
Okay. Now we have to come towards the recommendation. Before providing a recommendation, we just have to say what is being done wrong. So explaining it in my own words, the letter sent to
Isn't
the
that
share.
isn't
Yes.
that what you just say? Isn't
Come
that what
again,
you just
please.
said there was done wrong? So why are you repeating it? Like on the recommendation, didn't you just say what was done
I
wrong
said,
over
but
there? So why are you
again,
repeating it again?
look. I'm not providing a detailed explanation in step number 1 of recommendation. This is just 1 or 2 liner that I'm stating right, not a detailed recommendation. It is not something detailed. I'm just going to write down in 1 line, explaining it in my own words that what is wrong. Again, but just very small. So that is an introduction towards my recommendation. I need to do. The letter sent to the shareholders is wrong. That's it. That's all I need to write down. That is being done wrong. Understood? Now I have to move towards the
Okay. Oh,
recommendation.
okay.
I have to move towards the recommendation now. That is the most important part because that is what the examiner wants to see. So the recommendation is going to be just as I explained before writing this down, is going to be that already the letter. No, sorry. I have to start from the CCG. The CCG states that the
The
CCG was
shareholders have
made. The
the power
CCG
to
was made
challenge.
to increase
Oh, okay.
the confidence of the shareholders within the board. Hence, the board should always be available for the shareholder. As letter has already been given to the shareholders, the board should re the board should provide the board should send a new letter to the shareholders of Daley Corporation and state that the previous letter has been voided. Voided means that it is no longer a good thing. You should ignore it. It is void. We don't no longer accept it. It is just trash. Rip it apart and throw it in the dustbin. It is voided. You should do that. The letter has been voided, and we are ready to communicate anytime that the shareholders
The
want.
spelling is very
That's it.
funny.
That is it. Okay. That is the appropriate recommendation that I have to provide. And please, just like me, don't make so many spelling mistakes within your exam. I think I was born with it. When you are born, you have an identity when you are born. Like it is even written upon your, what is that? The social security card and the national identity card. It is written upon that this person has a mole upon his head, on the right side of his head. This is his identification.
Yeah.
So my identification is that I'm very bad at writing, typing
Are
something.
we doing
I
any
make a lot
topic
of
today,
spelling
or
mistakes.
are we doing topic today? Like what topic are we doing?
Come again, please.
Are we doing any new topic today?
No topics today. Just the question. That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Now we are done with 2 deficiencies. So we have attained 4 marks. If I talk about the exam, I just need to identify 1 more deficiency and then I'm done with the question. I will move towards the next question within the exam. Let's start reading the next paragraph because we are done with this first paragraph. Let's start reading the next paragraph. The executive director's remuneration is set by the remuneration committee. Great. That is a good thing. That is what the remuneration committee is all about. There is nothing wrong here. Good. This is the first thing identified as good, but I don't need to write it down. The question does not say that write down things that are being done good. The question does not state that. The non-executive director's remuneration committee is set by the board and is based upon pre-tax profit targets. Oh my God. So
Number one,
basically now
can I say something?
every single student
Can I
here
say
is
something?
going to say, yes.
That's wrong.
What part is wrong? That is my question. What part is being done wrong here?
Okay, let me see. Wait. The non-NEDs are setting their own remuneration, and also their remuneration is based upon pre-tax profit targets. So basically, now every single student here is going to say, yes. What part is wrong? That is my question. What part is being done wrong here?
What part is wrong? That is my question. What part is being done wrong here?
their remuneration, and also their remuneration is built on profit, and any their pay should not be linked to the company's performance.
Okay, now I have a very important thing that I need to tell you. Even within the previous lecture, this point was not written down, but I told you one very important thing, that the board, the non-executive directors can themselves decide that this is what we should be paid. They decide themselves. But obviously, they need approval from the shareholders when they are deciding that. Okay, so the shareholders can come up if they think that the non-executive directors are keeping their hourly rates very high. The shareholders can come together and then they can vote against that decision, and that salary would not be paid to the directors, the non-executive directors. So the first part is not the issue here, because this can be controlled by the non-executive, this can be controlled by the shareholders. The issue is the second part, that why is their remuneration being based upon the pre-tax profits which are agreed by the board at the start of the financial year. So basically the board, the non-executives, is themselves deciding what targets we are going to achieve, and then they achieve those targets and give themselves bonuses based upon those tax targets, pre-tax profits, whatever it is. So that is wrong. Their salary must be based upon hours, so the number of hours they have provided to the company, so that they provide more hours to the company. Here they are not anymore independent of the company. They need to be independent of the company. But if their salary is based upon the company's profits, they are not anymore independent of the company. They are again dependent upon the company's profits. The non-executive directors were selected so that they can be independent. Understood? So now what is going to be the consequence of this? What is going to be the consequence? That is the important thing. The consequence is that
they will not care about.
Yes, go ahead.
Should I go ahead? Okay. They will not care about the long-term interest of the shareholders. Instead, they'll focus on their own short-term interests.
Great. That is the part here that I wanted you to understand, and you have correctly stated it, that the non-executive directors are now going to think about, okay, we just need to make the profits right now, and we are going to get our bonuses. They were hired so that they can protect the interest of the shareholders, but now they would be violating the interest of the shareholders just so that they can make huge bonuses. All of their efforts would be to increase the company's profits, whether by fraud, whether by making inhumane decisions, again, just like the executive directors, everything, and the shareholders in the future would be destroyed. Understood? That is the consequence.
Okay.
And what is going to be the recommendation within this question? The recommendation is also very simple. The Code of Corporate Governance states that the non-executive directors' remuneration should be based upon the time that they provide to the company, whereas within this scenario, their remuneration is based upon the pre-tax profits. Again, this is wrong. The board, the shareholders should come together and vote that the CCG states that the non-executive directors should be paid an hourly base salary so that they can provide as much time as to the company as possible, so that the company can make profits in the long term as well, and is protected, and the shareholders' interest in the long term is also protected. That is going to be the recommendation, a simple recommendation.
The thing is, like, I understand, but I don't know how to answer the question.
Yes, ask the question.
I understand it, but I don't know how to answer a question.
You don't know how to answer the question?
No, it's like, I don't know. I just don't get how to answer a question.
Well, great, because I'm not going to solve this part for you right now. I have explained it. Now you have to solve this part. You have to solve this part first of all from this question and send it to me so that I can check it out whether it is correct or not.
Right now?
Then you will move towards the next question that I'm going to give you as a homework. Understood?
Yeah.
Great. So this, I have explained every single aspect of this, the recommendation, the deficiency. You just write it down and
what do
send
you say? What do you say that recommendation?
What is going to be the proper recommendation here? What is going to be the proper recommendation here? Answer this question. What is the recommendation that you think that should be?
The shareholder, they should agree among themselves on hourly pay, which should not be linked to the profit of the company. That's what I think will be.
But you have to provide a detailed explanation, not just one or two liner recommendation. Let me give you the recommendation again. This Code of Corporate Governance states that the non-executive directors remuneration should not be linked with the performance of the company. The non-executive director's remuneration must be linked with the time that they provide to the company. Hence, this model should be reversed, and the non-executive directors of Delhi Corporation should be paid an hourly wage based upon the time that they provide to the company. That is going to be my recommendation. Now see, you just gave me a recommendation of 1 or 2 lines. That is not professional. I just turned your own words and turned them into more professional words and made the recommendation a bit better than you were providing. This is how you do it within the exam. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Understood? Now, this part has to be solved by you because it is very easy. And don't worry, I'm going to send you a fully solved question of this. I'm going to share the full solved notes of this question as well. Now, let's come towards where we left the question from. The next part. As the board is of view that the internal control environment is very effective, an audit committee has not been established. Okay.
That
Great.
could be an
I
issue.
think that this company should take the code of corporate governance pages, burn it, and then throw it away because they are doing everything so wrong. That is what I think of it. Audit committee is required when you have shareholders that are not running the company. The
Oh,
CCG says that you must have an audit committee.
you must.
Yeah, you must have an audit committee because an audit committee has to oversee the external audit, the internal audit function. So who is going to do that right
Oh,
now? The internal audit department is responsible for making sure that the internal controls of the company are correct. If there is no audit committee, then who is overseeing the internal audit department? If no one is overseeing the internal audit department, how can you make sure that the internal audit is making sure that the internal controls are also effective, that the internal controls are good? How can you make sure of that? So you must have an audit committee. Now let me start from the beginning, the deficiency portion. First of all, I'm going to write down what is wrong in my own words. I think it is explanatory. The board does not have an audit committee for Delhi Corporation, which is required by the CCG. Now I'm going to come towards what is going to be the consequence of it. Now there are two different consequences of it. Remember that when a company, remember them. I think you should remember it. Write it down somewhere in your rough notebooks. If a company does
I am
not
writing it
have,
down.
okay, if a company does not have an audit committee, the shareholders would be less reluctant to rely upon the financial statements of that company because there is no one independent overseeing the financial statement process, the making of financial statement process, the internal control. Because who is independent? The non-executives. Who sit within the audit committee? The non-executives. So audit committee is an independent committee that must be present. The shareholders would be reluctant to rely upon your financial statements because there is no independent person that there is no independent committee that is overseeing the preparation of the financial statements and the internal controls as well. The number two thing, when the external auditor comes in and he sees that there is no audit committee within the company, he also knows that now there will be lots of issues within the internal controls because again, there is no independent person looking over the internal controls. The external auditor will again think that the financial
I still have
statements. Yes, come again.
No, when you complete it.
Okay, so when the external auditor comes in, the second thing he will be very reluctant about is that the financial statements that he has to audit the financial statements. He would even say that now there is so much risk that there will be so many errors within these financial statements. Why? Because the independent people who look over the preparation of the financial statements are not even there. So these are the three consequences that I just stated. The consequence, now in professional
I have
words,
another
how are you
one.
going to write down? How are you going to write this down within your answer? You are going to write down that the audit committee of this company is not present, and the consequence of this would be that the shareholders would be reluctant to rely upon the financial statements that are prepared by the company. Even when the external auditor comes in to audit the financial statements, he would have too much issues relying upon the internal controls of the company because no independent party is there to govern the internal controls. And finally, even the auditor would think that the financial statements has too many errors in them. There are very much high risks within the financial statements. Why? Because there is no independent person looking over the preparation of the financial statements as well. Now, when I come towards
Another
the
issue is
recommendation side,
I have
yes,
another issue.
come again, ask the
If they don't
question,
have an
please.
audit, I think I have another issue. If there's no audit committee, then the external auditors, who will they communicate with?
Good, great. That is also a
Because like
consequence. Who are they
if
going to
they
communicate with?
because if they communicate in management, they can be like they can make like modified audit decisions. Like
Yes,
they can be scared that if I
yes,
read something,
yes,
stuff like
yes.
that.
Good pick, good pick. I missed it, but you picked it up. That is how you solve the question. Good. So you are trained to solve the CCG questions now. No, now let's come towards the recommendation side. What is going to be the recommendation side?
I
The
don't know.
recommendation is also going to be very simple. First of all, I just need to explain what is wrong in just 2 lines. That's it. The board does not have an audit committee, and that is wrong. That's it. That's all I need to
Again.
add. Yes, again, that is just something that is wrong. I just need to start having a, I can't just simply go towards recommendation. In professional life, you have to start somewhere, and you have to start somewhere else so it looks good. It looks good. For example, if you come to me and ask, sir, what is the price of this phone? I want to buy it from you. I'm not just going to give you the price simply. That is not being professional. What professional is that I will first state, this phone is very good. I have used it for the past 5 years and I haven't had any kind of issue. Yes, it is opened. I have changed the battery of this phone like 3 times, but I have been using this phone for the past 5 years. So you are going to have a very good phone if you buy it. Now, this is an opening line that I gave you. And then I'm going to give you a price that this phone is for 500 pounds that I'm selling it. So now you get how you have to start. I'm just starting it that the board does not have an audit committee, which is wrong. Now I'm going to give a recommendation. And what is going to be the recommendation here? The code of I'm professionally stating the recommendation. You have to write it down
Oh,
yourself.
you should always say the code of corporate. You should always say the code of corporate governance said this. We have to.
Yes,
So you should say.
yes, yes, yes. Because that is being professional. You are not saying it on your own. This is what the code of corporate governance say. You must write it down. Okay. Now, what does the code of corporate governance say? That is going to be my recommendation. The code of corporate governance says that any company that is a listed company or the shareholders are not present to run that company, it must follow the CCG principles. And one of the principles says that an audit committee must be present within the company to oversee the internal control process of the company to make sure that the internal controls are effective. And also an audit committee must be present so that the external auditor identifies less risky areas, and at the same time that the external auditor, the recommendation, the consequence that you identified, the external auditor can also properly communicate with the people on the board, because the audit committee is there to be licensed between the external auditor and the board. They are in between, they are the middlemen. Understood?
Okay.
Great. Now this is going to be my recommendation, and we are done with the question. So within this question for 6 marks, how many deficiencies we identified? 4 different deficiencies. 2 of those deficiencies are the ones that I have stated here. But the remaining 2 deficiencies are those deficiencies that I have explained properly, but I need you to solve them. First thing that you need to do is you need to solve them. I have given you a way for those deficiencies, and now you need to solve them on your own. And give me the answer upon WhatsApp, written in Word, not in your workbook, not from your pen and paper. I want the answer within Word using the same format that I have stated right here. I will also be
Okay.
sharing the full answer for this question as well. So if you have any kind
When
of
should I
issue,
submit
you
it?
can
I'll
look back.
submit it before tomorrow morning, probably in the night at night.
Yes, you should submit it before tomorrow's lecture. Whatever time before tomorrow's lecture, before taking tomorrow's lecture, you must submit it. Okay. The next thing that I want you to do before taking tomorrow's lecture is also going to be solving another question relating to CCG as your
What
homework.
number?
Something that I have completely left out, something that I have not explained at all. The CCG question that I have not explained. So that
Is
is
there
a
any more
question
CCG
that is going to
questions?
make you come again, please.
Is there another question, more CCG questions?
Yeah, no, there are only 2 questions within your kit, and that is all regarding CCG. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So the
This
next
question.
question, why am I not providing you an explanation just like I did within this question? Because I
Yeah, you don't
want
have
you
to.
to solve it. Because I want you to solve it. Because if I'm there to mummy feed you every single question and provide you an explanation, I won't be present within the exam to mummy feed you. This is how you write, this is how you write. So you need to be able to solve questions on your own so that you are prepared for the exam. Yes, if you have an issue, I will be present to answer those issues for you. But before asking me any types of issue, you must solve the first question, the 2 deficiencies that I've left behind within Daley Corporation, you must solve it. And the second question is this question, Faurecia Corporation.
Which was 225. Okay, Faurecia.
Yes, 225. Now, I am not going to open the Faurecia Corporation question today. I want you to open that question yourself, identify which part relates with Code of Corporate Governance, and answer that question. Understood?
Okay, yep.
Great. And we are done with today's lecture.
That was